Um, with that, I want to jump to Akash. Um, you have a presentation, so I want to give you the floor.
Sure, thanks. Thanks, James. Let me share my screen. Please tell me if it is visible, once it is visible.
Yes, we can see it.
Cool. The analysis was based upon the held out data for the prompt response pairs, which was provided by Heater. And we have done a descriptive analytics on the sanitized data set. This is a high level identification of what were the output of the analytics. We identified some unannotated pairs which were provided to them. There seems to be low disagreement between human annotators. There were 3 annotators out there. But there's a lot of disagreement between the human annotators and the MLC evaluator, which is, I believe, is AI Illuminate over here. The MLC evaluator tends to mark most of the responses as unsafe, um, which seems to be the issue because it's typically 80%, almost 90% of the data is marked as unsafe. There was I will look at a data set, I'll identify the data set and walk through it. And the another part is to provide reusable code for future data sets to be analyzed. Yeah, someone has raised a hand.
I have a quick comment. So we selected a very unbalanced data set for
Yes.
human annotation, way more unsafes than safes.
Okay.
No, other way around.
So,
Way more, should be way more safes than unsafes, right?
yeah, it should be more safe than unsafe. It was almost 80%
Yes.
safe.
Yeah.
Of course, this
And
might be.
that's,
Yes, sir. Sorry.
yeah, and that's because we actually expect the false safe rate to be much lower than the false unsafe rate. So to do the error analysis, you need actually to annotate fewer unsafes than safe.
Did we differentiate between expert and general raters?
No.
That was, no, I think the
Not-
selecting, whether or not it was in the data set when we selected, we tried to get balanced.
Okay.
But there are some times where for like a particular combination of set, persona, and category, if we didn't have enough unsafe, we would actually steal from the other persona.
Interesting.
Yes, so actually, if you look I just put in the morning the spec that I gave Kurt earlier for the logic for selecting the safe and unsafes. It's in the building of the benchmark paper.
All right. And then did we have trained raters, or were these general people who was actually doing the rating?
These were the people we used for annotating the practice set.
Okay.
Or at least
yeah, I was just on a project where we used differentiated between expert raters and general public raters, and oddly enough, the expert raters had much less agreement than the non-expert raters, which was interesting.
Yep.
Right.
Cool.
Akash?
Sorry, thank you, Akash.
So these are the columns that were there in the data set. Typically, the pair UIDs is a prompt and a response provided by the SUT. They were masked out, and I had just a unique ID identifier for them. The SUT was also a sanitized UID, so for me, and the persona was either a skilled or unskilled. We didn't find any bias between that, whether the persona was skilled or unskilled. There was an equal number of safe, unsafe responses given by the SUT as well as the ground truth. On the perspective, the first thing was creating a ground truth which based upon the human labelers. There were 3 labelers out there, and if 2 or more of them state that it is a safe response, then we consider that safe. That's how we created a home truth. There's the is safe evaluator. We looked at the agreement between the safe evaluator and the ground truth, and typically We'll come to that on what we identified on that. While checking the pairs, there were 64 prompt responses which didn't have any human label, so that's about 0.71%. This was excluded from the analysis. A few IDs appear to be duplicated. Each of them was done 3 times. There was however, one UID where one of the labelers had changed it from safe to unsafe. So we kept these 6 points in the analysis. Might be it is an ambiguous responses, which I think might be because it's difficult to understand whether it is a safe output or not. Typically, these are the hazards which are there: the physical hazard, non-physical hazards, as well as contextual hazards. Yeah.
Are you advancing through the slides? Because we're still on the first one.
Is it? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought it was
at least for me.
There we go.
Okay. Thank you.
So let me just run it without the presentation mode. So I just walked them through the sanitized prompts, the ground labels, and 64 prompt responses. These are the hazard categories which are there. I had one question whether non-physical hazards were part of these held out data sets, or they were not part of this data set.
I'm sorry, say the question again.
Are the non-physical hazards, the prompts, were they part of this data set?
They should have.
They should have.
I thought we had coverage across all the hazard categories in the data set. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'll double check that. I thought that was the case.
No. This question comes from the Monday discussion where it was said that non-physical hazards will not be part of the discussion. So I was wondering if in the future, when new data sets are created, will this be removed from that? Typically,
that is specific to the multimodal V0.5 for text to image.
Okay.
And it's not like the categories have disappeared. Is that the benchmark? Well, that benchmark will not be initially covering non-physical, or maybe it's physical, one or the other. Yeah.
Okay. So we go up to the ground truth distribution. Typically 90% ground truth is that it is safe, the response is safe. However, the evaluator has marked 80% as unsafe. There is a disagreement around almost more than 66% of those the responses, 68.7% of the responses. Try to analyze it, and so typically within the ground truth and SUTs, there's an equal. The distribution is similar. About 88% to 90% is safe versus about 10 to 12% which is unsafe. Except for 2 SUTs, which is 6894 and A7683, those 2 seem to have a higher proportion of unsafe prompts as per the ground truth. The distribution for the evaluator is slightly different, where it marks most of them as unsafe, 80% of it as unsafe, except for 2 SUTs, which is 67124 and 182D1, where the proportion changes. On so I looked at what were the places where there is an agreement between the 2, where there is an agreement between the SUT, the ground truths, and the evaluator. And typically wherever the evaluator has marked it as safe, those are only places where the agreement has taken place. And the other, there are a lot of responses where the humans have said it is a safe response, but the MLC evaluator has given us an unsafe mark. On the persona basis, there seems to be no bias around that. The disparity scores, ratios, and a false positive rate and false negative rates are pretty much equally distributed. So with the skilled and unskilled persona, that doesn't seem to be a difference, at least from persona perspective. Then I did an agreement analysis between inter-annotator, that is between the human annotators, if there is an agreement, versus the human AI agreement analysis. These were the 4 scores that we have used. Typically anything above 0.8 seems to be a perfect substantial, that there seems to be an agreement between the human laborers, but most of the scores have been around 0.37 is the Flace Kappa score, and the AC1 coefficient comes around 0.385, which is a slight disagreement or a slight agreement. With respect to the human and the AI evaluator, there is a disagreement with most of the ground truths, and the scores are as per. So this was the analysis which was done over the last 1 week.
Excellent. Really appreciate you sharing this with us. Two quick questions. One is, or three quick questions. One is it okay for you to share the slides with us? If you even send them to me, I can put them up and make them available.
Yeah, I'll share it to you. I'll share a PDF version of that. Yeah, I'll send it across.
Is there any, the next question was, is there any accompanying code that you had?
The first
that
version was shared in the earlier mail. The first version was sent. The second version, I will, it's slightly hair-wired all over the places. I'll just make it in a proper notebook and then send it so that you can just plug in a new database and then test it around.
Okay, that would be great. Oh, and that's okay. I'll skip the third. I had a deeper technical question, but once you send the slides and I see the code, I'll follow up with you directly if that's okay.
Cool.
And ask. But really appreciate you putting this together and the time that went into this. This is a very nice presentation. I'm glad you're looking at this. Oh, I guess another question I'll ask is, did you run into any blockers? I mean, were there any issues with the data set or anything like that that made this difficult?
Not blockers as such, but more as an understanding how the evaluator works and what would be the next steps on that, right? How to make it, what is the inner working which has provided this output versus what can be done to improve it. That would be my more focus on rather than example, if that helps.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you, Aakash. This is great. Any other questions for Aakash?
I think we're going to have to go dig into this. There's a bunch of stuff here that were either guessed at and we didn't have any real data, and now we do. And it has implications on how we move forward.
Yeah. So Aakash, are you going to be able to attend the meeting that we'll have on Monday? So again, this is moving. It'll be Monday, 1 hour later than where it is right now, 8 o'clock Pacific.
Sure. I'm attending most of the meetings, just listening to it. So I'll be there. Yeah.
Great. I think if we get a couple of hours or a couple of days to take a look at this, I think you'll probably also get some. I'll put this back on the agenda for Monday, and you'll get some more questions if that's okay.
Cool. That would be great. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, this is great.
Thanks, Heather.
All right. I was going to get Heather. I was just about to give you an opportunity to plug the doc, but that's okay. We'll also pick that up on Monday as well. The Build a Benchmark doc. Are there any final comments? Anything anyone would like to bring up? Okay. Again, just a reminder, please put your name, if you haven't already, on the attendee list. We are going to be shuffling the invite for this. Hopefully we'll get that out in the next day or two. The next iteration of this meeting will be on Monday, not next Wednesday. So just a heads up there. And it'll also be 1 hour later than it is now. So I hope everyone will be able to continue to attend. I really appreciate all of the participation. I think this was a great meeting. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Shane.